Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And just real quick, I don't normally do this before the show, but hopefully everything is going to be working here just fine. Everyone, today on the program, we have the one, the only Miss Sandy Berger, who will be joining us here in just a moment. And also, I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and my co-host is unfortunately caught up, so she could not join us. So Carissa will be back tomorrow, don't you worry. But yeah, it's just going to be myself and Sandy, and we're going to have a fun time talking about all of the recent Apple announcements, as well as some of the products that you might want to pick up during Prime Day, because that is going yesterday and today, I believe, the 13th and the 14th. So we're going to be talking about a number of different devices that, hey, you could use to really connect your home. So with that being said, everyone, just real quick, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, past shows, future shows, all shows, and the podcast, the video archives, audio archives, everything you need to know is going to be at our website, as well as links to really any products that we talk about, links to any stories that we pull from here for our coverage of Apple. I did actually watch it live, but I found myself kind of drifting in and out. I'm not going to say that, not having an audience there affected it one way or the other, but it was so well polished. It was, it was less of a keynote and more of an ad. And I know that all keynotes are ads, but boy, did that feel like one really long commercial, and I was really struggling. But we're going to talk about that and more here in just a moment. So everyone, at Computer America on all socials, and why don't we go ahead and bring on our guest, who I'm hoping everything is working correctly, everything is working well. And Sandy, can you hear me? Well, she might have stepped away for a second, but everyone, while we're waiting for her, she is a longtime correspondent of Computer America. Sandy Berger is our consumer electronics expert. She's written articles for many publications, and of course, she maintains her own CompuKiss website, which I believe is undergoing renovations. Last I checked, so yeah, that's pardon our dust, I suppose. And yeah, it looks like she's turning her microphone on and off. Maybe there's a mute switch somewhere that's not working, but yeah, Sandy, can you hear me? You might have to go in and change which microphone Zoom is using, because I clearly see that, you're kind of muting yourself on and off, and the microphone's going in and out, but it might be picking up a different microphone. So that's the only thing I can think of. Ladies and gentlemen, you think we'd have this down pat by now, but it's okay. Live radio, it's always an adventure, and we're going to do a little bit of troubleshooting here. Worst case, and it would absolutely be a worst case scenario, would be to try to get something working on Skype, but I haven't used Skype in forever, really ever since Zoom came out, so I'm not sure if... that might have worked. Sandy, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, great. Solved. Problem solved.
Perfect. Yeah. That's perfectly fine. And I don't know what it was, but whatever you did, perfect. Welcome back onto Computer America. Sandy, how you been?
Been really well. How about you, Ben?
Been okay. Been, not going outside as I have been for the last year. So.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of tough, but yeah. I think we're all surviving.
Yep. Yeah. And especially with the holidays coming up, I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were saying that, as hard as, the summer has been, and as hard as, the transitions with jobs, working from home and things like that, as hard as that has been, this is going to be the first holiday season with COVID. And, normally people have, family over to their house, or they go to other family members' house. They travel more, during the holidays. And this is going to be a very very different holiday season. So it's, we're still not going to be used to this whole pandemic thing.
That's right. I think it's going to be difficult, and yet there's other things that are more difficult. So we're not going to complain. We're just going to do our part and live through this thing, right?
Absolutely. That's the most we can do. So everyone, as I said before, Sandy Berger, our consumer electronics expert, I can't think of a better time to have her on than these past couple of days, because as I said before, the Apple event is really one of the biggest Apple events they've had. If you didn't hear, 5G was the phrase of the day. But yeah, there's a bunch of Apple announcements with new Apple products and integrations with smart home and all that good stuff. We'll fill everyone in on that. And then on top of that, there's Prime Day, where if you are really Prime Day is less like, get whatever you want, and more if there's anything that Amazon makes, this might be your time to go jump on and get it. So yeah, it's a nice couple of days, Sandy. Glad to have you here. And by the way, just real quick before we get started, normally I mention CompuKiss.com. Looks like you're renovating.
Yes, we are. We have taken the website down to nothing and starting all over again. Now, let me explain that the CompuKiss website is one of the oldest websites. We've been up for, I think it's been 19 years. And that is ancient for a website. And we did really well with it, loved doing it, and I'm still going to do it. But I've had to take all the old programming that was in there. Now think about how far we've come in the past 20 years. You know how much old programming was in the website. So I've had to actually remove all that, and I've been working on it for probably 2 weeks already, and it might really take more than 2 more weeks to get it going again, but I promise it will come back, and it'll come back better than ever.
Perfect. Yeah, I know that when we switched over from front page over to WordPress as well, big transition. You have to pretty much take everything from scratch and just, transition over. There's not a whole lot of simple archiving you can do. So
right. And all these years, well, not all the years, but for a lot of years, I had help on the website. And this year is the first year I have nobody working for me anymore.
Gotcha.
And so I'm all alone going through this stuff. And actually, like anything else, it's a bit of the learning curve. Even if you've done it before, if you haven't done it for 5 years or something like that, then you have to start all over again. So it's been an interesting endeavor.
I gotcha. Yeah, and of course, I'm sure you're going to learn a lot. When it's all said and done, though, I got to say that WordPress, there is probably more of a learning curve to WordPress than there are other websites. But at the same time, once you get it all configured, it's so simple to kind of update and add to it and change, and do entire overhauls. It's actually a very good system, and I know that you could have gone with, things like not OneSquare, Squarespace and
right.
1+1 services like that, but you decided to go with and
my blog
WordPress
has always been in WordPress, so I am familiar with WordPress,
right.
And that also makes it a little bit easier for me in this big transition. So
right, yep. And by the way, I just had to Google it. Google itself, the what some would consider one of the oldest websites out there. Yeah, that was created in 1998. So, you're only like, 2 or 3 years behind Google itself. Actually, fun fact, I didn't know that Netflix was actually started before Google. So, fun fact, I didn't know that
Yes,
either.
and Netflix, but, they started with
DVD mailing.
DVDs, yeah. So.
Yeah, very, very interesting. But with that being said, why don't we go ahead and transition into our topics? And I have to, of course, ask you, did you catch the keynote? Did you catch the event yesterday?
I did. I did watch the whole thing, and I thought it was very, very well done. I mean, they had some great graphics and stuff like that.
Very well produced.
But, well produced, but just like anything else, it's not like being there.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people will immediately notice, and they even they didn't even try to hide it, because they had a couple shots there where they had Tim Cook up there on stage, and they would zoom out to the auditorium within the Apple complex, and
Right.
empty seats everywhere. Like they didn't try to do the NFL thing or the MLB thing where they try to fill it with digital people or things like that.
Right.
No, it was he was talking to a empty audience.
Right. And yet, like I said, I think they did a good job on the production of it.
Right.
Now, the kind of job that they're doing on the products that they're bringing out, that's another story. What do you think about that?
The products that they showed, I tuned in 10 minutes late, so I think I missed a bit of the kind of home automation. Like when it came in, they were talking about their new Apple HomePod lineup and what they were doing with that. I mean, just overall, what I got from the Apple event was, a lot of it was leaked. A lot of it was expected. They kind of hit the mark. I think that anyone who is surprised by what was announced have not been paying attention to, I guess, kind of the rumor mill that was happening before this event. So it was as expected, which, I mean, for Apple, that's kind of been par for the course ever since Tim Cook took over.
Yeah, I think that everybody knew what was coming. There was only one thing that really surprised me, and we can get to that after we start talking a little bit about the iPhone and the other stuff that they announced.
So I have this article here that I can actually send to you over Zoom. So let me do that real quick. But yeah, we're gonna pull from this one from the Verge, and it has a number of topics that they talked about, and they kind of break it down by different categories. Actually, this wasn't the exact one I was looking for. There was an even better one that I had somewhere that it was kind of breakdown. But let's see, one second. Just one moment. I'm sorry for this. I had it right here. It was this one, Tom's Guide. I like Tom's Guide. They're good people.
Yes, I like them too.
Yeah, so send that over to you. And for everyone out there watching the video portion, you can see it here, follow along, all that good stuff. Otherwise, it'll be in the show notes. Yeah, so they have the quick recap at the top, but I thought we kind of go, kind of blow by blow. So they said that, let's see, I guess we have to go all the way down to the bottom to kind of catch up to the beginning of it. And yeah, so they started with, where's the HomePod? This is all the good stuff here. So here we go. Multiple HomePod Mini devices can be paired together, allowing you to enjoy audio. That was one of your big complaints. Sandy, you've become our resident expert when it comes to digital assistants and, kind of the different devices people have. And HomePod, before we talk about what was kind of new with the HomePod, I guess this is where we're going to start. How was HomePod and Apple's offering before all of this? I mean, they have certain limitations that the other ones didn't have.
That's right. And HomePod was a little more expensive than most. And on top of that, it was more difficult to actually connect to it, because you had to scan codes and things like that to actually connect to it. Now the sound was great. I mean, I thought that the HomePod sounded as good as, Google Max when they came out. Maybe even a touch better. So the sound was wonderful, but connectivity amongst home devices was not. And yet they just had this one device. So they weren't really looking at doing the whole house until now, with the introduction of this HomePod Mini, they're calling it. And the HomePod Mini is going to connect. They'll connect to each other. They'll connect in stereo. And it sounds like they've really done a lot with the connectivity.
Yeah, that was definitely the focus when it came to HomePod, as well as integration with CarPlay, which is good to see, and HomeKit, which is good to see. They were pretty much everything that Amazon and Google have been touting from their smart speakers. It seems like Apple came out and said, "Oh, we finally do that too."
Yes. By the way,
yeah,
we know how to do that, right?
So you could trigger lights, you could arm and disarm alarms, you could have things automatically happen when you pull in, and you could have music, like you said, play in stereo. everything that you would expect from the others, and they finally caught up. And hey, I unfortunately, and I know that I'm in this boat, so I'm betting someone else is as well. I've already kind of jumped into Amazon's ecosystem, and even with all the integration that they've done with iPhone, which I do have an iPhone, I'm just not excited about jumping into a whole new ecosystem and, ditching everything I've already purchased. So unfortunately, a lot of this comes a little bit too late, I'm sure, for some people out there.
Right, but there will be interoperability being built in soon. I mean, it's not here yet. I did see one crack in that in the presentation that they did when they talked about the Apple HomePod Mini. They said that it right now, supports Apple Music, but in the near future, it would also support Amazon Music, which is a really big breakthrough if they do support it. I mean, if they come through with that, that's a big breakthrough, and that's bringing all these devices and these ecosystems together. Yes, a very small step, but a good step.
I'm wondering, and to me, it really comes down to and they even I guess it's always been Hey Siri, but yeah, to me, it almost seems like Hey Siri was kind of the exact same thing as Hey, the other trigger word for Google, and it seems almost like exactly the same, and I'm not sure. And of course, a lot of what was talked about with a lot of their products had to do with the internal hardware. They have the Apple S5 chip that was built in, so maybe it's better sounding. I mean, sure, but I don't know. I'm not sold just by looks. I'm not sold by just sound. I'm glad that they all work together, but yeah. But
not
too exciting, but it's where they started.
I think that it seems like most people are going to be thinking that this HomePod Mini is going to be comparable to the small Google or the small Alexa. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem with that is, and they look very similar, but the problem is that this iPod Home Mini is going to cost $99. And right now, $50 is the highest price point for the Echo devices and the Google devices. And right now, we'll maybe talking a little bit about Prime Day. You can really get these things pretty cheap.
Yeah, the price did not amaze either, but and by the way, you I'm sure made the same mistake that I'm sure a lot of people out there might. Not an iPod. It's so easy to call an Apple product
It's so hard, though.
I know it. HomePod, yes. So Apple's actually moved away from kind of the i naming scheme. Like the only thing they have is like the iPhone at this point. Everything else is Apple Watch, Apple whatever. So
and I do suppose that these companies have to what they think is keeping current. But if you look at Google they started off at Google Home, and now it's Google Nest, and then there's Google Home Nest. It's very confusing to the average person.
Right. And the way that I've always had explained to me when it comes to the i were things that were created under Steve Jobs, and because he was the CEO, he was the interim CEO while they found another CEO. Of course, he transitioned fully into the CEO, but he always kept the I kind of tag. But and so ever since after Steve Jobs, everything has been Apple instead under Tim Cook. So Apple Watch, Apple TV, Apple whatever. So there you go. Okay, so there were home devices. Didn't really amaze. If anything, it just seemed like again we played catch up. We now do things that you expect from all of our competitors. So I mean. Good on them. Good.
And I have to question just how good they've done with Siri. Obviously Siri was the first voice assistant out there.
Yeah.
And everybody was amazed when she first started. But then after the Echoes came and the Googles came, tell you the truth, Google was at one point quite a bit more intelligent, shall we say, than Siri. And I'm not sure that Siri has really caught up there until I really get to use it more. And I don't even use Siri much on my phone.
I've turned it off completely, yeah.
It's something to consider.
Definitely. So, and I'm sure that as always, she's going to get better. It's just that, with everything that Google has and Amazon has, it's hard to imagine that Apple has the same access to data to make these things better. Because I don't know, I think that people are used to talking to Google and Amazon, but people are not used to talking to Apple anymore. And that's going to hurt them a little bit. But, Sandy, let's go ahead and transition over to iPhone 12. And I mean that when you said well produced, I'm sure that you meant like the videos that were happening there with the iPhone. I mean, for lack of an audience and lack of someone coming out with with it holding in their hand and saying this is the iPhone, they put on a spectacular product video that just made it look really, really nice. And they came out with some new colors. I think this is the first year in a while, ever since like the 5 and the 5S, 5SE, 5 whatever. 4 different models for phones. And if I can just recap here, and we'll talk about each of these. But we have the iPhone 12, which is kind of the base model. You get a lot of the bells and whistles, standard price. If I recall, that one comes in at I think that was the $799 one. Was the iPhone? I think so. Yeah, the iPhone 12. Then there's the iPhone 12 Pro. That one comes in at $899, and that one is a little bit faster, better camera. We'll talk about some of the improvements, but it's the Pro Max, which is the larger screen size. That one comes in at like $10.99 or $9.99 or $10.99.
$9.90. I think it was $9.99.
Yeah, so something like that. And then, of course, the last one that people expected but didn't really expect was the iPhone. Did they call it the SE or the Mini?
They call it the Mini.
Yeah, the iPhone 12 Mini. Here we go, which is 5.4-inch design. Really, it's funny that they call it the Mini, because I think the 5.4-inch used to be what like the iPhone 5 was.
Right.
Like that's the size of those older phones. Some people prefer those, and that came in at like $699 with a little bit different parts, but still a lot of the bells and whistles. So, with that being said, I think one thing tying all these together, Sandy, were some of the innards, some of the internals. They have a diagram here, courtesy of Apple. They gave us this image here. Let's talk about some of these. CPU a bit faster. They also had.
This will be the fastest CPU out there, and I think the iPhone 11 still is the fastest right this minute, but the 12 will be even a little faster. They improved the low light camera and everything, but internally there's not that many changes.
Right.
I believe the changes are more external. And I don't know what other internal changes you want to talk about.
Well, some of the internal ones, they made a big deal about the different CPU and GPU innovations that they had, and that definitely improves the night vision, like you were talking about. The fastest CPU, the fastest GPU in a phone, but of course they're still just phones. Don't expect anything too miraculous out of them, but they are going to be faster, which is cool. They're going to process a number of like audio and visual stuff kind of on the phone itself instead of exporting that to the cloud. So apps should function a little bit faster. I mean, there's not really too much there that people need to concern themselves with, other than this phone should be faster, and that's, I guess, a good thing. So, and also internally, one other thing we should probably mention, because they mentioned it a number of times, 5G. Sandy, did you hear this thing has 5G?
I heard, and it was splashed all over my screen. Big letters, 5G. 5G has been so slow in getting going, and the COVID thing made it even slower. But now Apple's behind it, and that's a big deal. That gives people the confidence that they maybe didn't have in 5G previously. So Apple's supporting it. People are saying, well, that must be good. We'll see.
5G is something that is definitely coming. Unfortunately, Apple, Apple making devices, that was kind of expected. I think some people even expected it in the previous iteration in the iPhone 11,
Right.
but it finally made it here in the iPhone 12. I have gone on record on the show to say here that 5G doesn't really matter all that much yet, unless you live in 8 of these cities in the United States that have 5G, and unless you were on the right street corner to actually get that 5G. Yeah, it's probably not going to affect you. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be improvements in connectivity. The antennas and the chips, and being able to deal with different bandwidths and things like that. Overall, it should help you get a better data connection and things will be faster, but you're not going to be one of the 1% of people who are going to be able to access all of the benefits to 5G. Like, it's very unlikely. So 5G is cool, it's future-proof, but I still think that 5G is very much in the future. It's going to take 2, 3, 4 more years before city dwellers get it. And if you're in rural places, yeah, hopefully LTE gets to your neck of the woods sometime soon, let alone 5G. So
No, I'm a little rural, but not that rural. We have LTE. We do not have 5G. We will not have 5G because I'm out in the country, basically.
right.
However, this is the thing that surprised me. Remember when at the beginning of this conversation, I said one thing surprised me about this presentation from Apple, and it was when the Verizon guy came on.
Yeah.
And he said, we're going to have, fast speed 5G in like 60 cities before the end of the year. Okay, that was kind of expected. But the shocker was that they're going to have a 5G nationwide network. So he didn't give any details. So I had to kind of look up, what does this nationwide network mean? Well, up until now, Verizon has been using the wave band, which is the very high speed, but it's got a very poor range. That's why it's only in cities, because the range is so poor. But somehow Verizon has gone with what they call a DSS 5G.
Yeah.
Totally different and yet still faster. It's DSS for dynamic network sharing, DNS, dynamic network sharing. And what they're going to do is use the LTE network alongside of 5G. Now, exactly how they're going to do this or how it's going to turn out, but this again could propel 5G more mainstream so that anybody who's getting Verizon LTE could get 5G.
And by the way, I found this article here. We'll include this one in the show notes as well. DSS, dynamic spectrum sharing, is kind of what they announced. And yeah, just like you said, lets carriers run LTE and 5G networks side by side. That's good. And of course, that means that, they're not going to tear down 4G LTE towers and try to replace every single one with 5G. Sandy, the reason why I say that it's still going to take a number of years is that the distance that 5G covers compared to 4G LTE is like 1/5. Anything from people to walls to just open space. You need 5 times as many towers to get the same coverage, because it's just, unfortunately, the signal degrades much faster. No matter which way you slice it, that means that we need 5 times as many antennas put up to get the same coverage under 5G as you would under 4G LTE. And that's a lot of cell phone towers and antennas. And, the country's one thing, because that's a lot of area to cover. But then even within cities, imagine cities having to make room for 5 times as many cell towers, to service the same area. There might not be that many, building rooftops or walls to, kind of support all those.
Right. And I understand what you're saying, Ben, and that is for the fastest 5G, the wave 5G, which that's the main thing that like Verizon has been doing all this time. But the idea of this DSS 5G,
sub 6 gigahertz 5G, Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's not going to be as fast, but maybe they're redefining the definition of 5G because it's been
Good,
out
because they
there. It's such
can't.
a big deal. Okay. And it's always needed all these towers that you're talking about. Well, now they're doing a form of 5G without all the towers. I don't know how it's going to work.
I'm
I
I'm
don't know
curious
if it's
to. Yeah, I'm definitely curious as how fast it is going to
going
be
to
compared.
be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
compared to
Yeah,
existing ones.
there's a lot of question marks here.
I
Um,
yeah.
but if they can do this and give you something that you feel is a little faster, I mean, how many people look at their phones and say, gee, I wish it was faster? I mean, occasionally, but
Yeah.
not on
And,
an everyday basis. On an everyday basis, you're probably happy with whatever speed your phone is giving you now.
I mean,
Um,
on an everyday basis, if you're using that much data, you're probably hunting for Wi-Fi signals as opposed to data signals.
right.
Wi-Fi would deliver the data much more effectively than cell would. I'm just curious as to what the transition is because it's always seemed like 5G, as they're promising it, that would revolutionize the world. It would be that monumental leap from 4G LTE to 5G, but
Right.
something more iterative or something more interim, where there's a step in between, which it sounds like this is what they're going for, but still
Exactly.
calling it 5G was needed. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that that's going to speed everything up and maybe move more people toward buying a 5G phone just for
Unfortunately,
that
and
reason.
yeah, and unfortunately, this is. I blame the marketers for this. It's
Mm. Yep.
they're always looking for something that the research and development guys or guys or gals are working on, and that they can sell to customers. And like at first it was 4G, then it was 4G LTE. Sandy, I don't know if you have heard of like 4G LTE plus, which was like yet
Hmm.
another kind of speed increase.
Right.
And then they were saying 5G, but like AT&T co-opted 5G to say like 5G E, which is kind of like the 5G evolution. It will become 5G eventually. But yeah,
Right.
they're trying to capitalize on 5G that everyone has been getting hit over the head with. But it's not here yet, but we still need the 5G name. So now we have the 5G DSS. So
Yes. Now, the
yeah,
place that this gets a little hairy is when you talk about true 5G. Um, you're talking about such low latency that it can be used to use for self-driving cars and things like that. Now, I don't think that what Verizon is talking about is anywhere near that, but it is something faster than what they have now.
one of the major improvements that true 5G would have over this, again, I know nothing about the speeds and bandwidth and how many devices this can handle and things like that, but one of the big things about 5G wasn't just the data transfer rate, but also the amount of devices. Because let's face it, if you have, back in the day, you had 4 devices. That was like your computer, your laptop, maybe your cell phone, and something else connected to the internet. Now consider the world today, where people have like 20, 30 devices connected to the internet, and your Wi-Fi has to keep up with it. 5G was the same way. 5G was able to handle 100 times as many devices on the same antenna that traditional 4G
Right.
would be able to handle. So if this has the ability to handle multiple devices, not just faster but multiple,
Hmm.
then we'll be that'll be good for that application as well. But
It'll be interesting to see how it
definitely.
actually turns out and what it can do. Hmm.
Definitely. And by the way, looking at this, and for all the people who like video games out there, I've been playing League of Legends for a long time now. They even announced their latest game, which is League of Legends Wild Rift. Looks a lot like League of Legends, the full-blown computer game, but it's on a mobile device, and it looked pretty darn good. But of course, that's going to be available on more systems than that one. It would just be available on that one as well. So let's see, there's that one. There's the new camera, and they started with the iPhone 12, which is a new dual lens 12 megapixel system with wide and ultra wide sensors that work together with advanced software to of course take photos. The iPhone 12 has an even smarter computational photography, smart HDR3. We all know what HDR has been doing for pictures, making them more vivid in, kind of high dynamic range. They said that every version of iPhone 12 will now have night mode on both front and rear cameras. So again, Sandy, 12 megapixel, night mode, better HDR in the base iPhone 12.
But incrementally better. Yeah. I don't see this as the jump from iPhone 9 to iPhone 11 with the cameras. There was a huge jump in there. Yeah. This is going to be incrementally better, but I don't think anybody's going to buy a new phone to get the camera. I think that what some people are going to buy about this phone is that it's thinner, smaller, lighter. So if you just don't even talk about the Mini, just take the iPhone 11, compare it to the iPhone 12. The iPhone 12 is 11% thinner, 15% smaller, and 16% lighter. Now, for everyday use, that makes a huge difference. And then if you didn't like the bigger phones, you can go to the Mini, which is a 5.4-inch screen, and I think probably would be even thinner, smaller, and lighter than the iPhone 12.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be enticing to some people.
Yeah, the new dimensions, of course, they could not keep them exactly the same because, they have cases to sell, and that, they can't be using old cases.
That's right. I didn't think about it that way. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and it's incremental improvements, like you said. Some of the stuff that they're doing, I think that a lot of the improvements you're seeing is not so much with the physical camera, although they did spend some time when we talk about the iPhone 12 Pro and the Pro Max. They did some work there with that camera, but a lot of the improvements with the camera are software side and kind of all the stuff going on behind the scenes with processing the image before it even happens or before it's saved and things like that.
Right.
So yeah, that's where some of the improvements. Let's see. And according to the breakdown here, they also had Magsafe. I'm not too familiar with Magsafe, but looks like this is their wireless charging system. So
well, what that is, Magsafe is going to have magnets that will attach it to the accessory. So basically, if you use wireless charging, there's have to have been a time or more than one time that you put your phone on the charger and you didn't get it adjusted properly, and you come back in the morning and it hasn't charged. That's going to avoid that problem, which I think is a very nice feature. It's not a huge feature, but it's a very nice feature. Plus, there'll be accessories, so you'll be able to put your credit card holder or whatever they come up with on the back of the phone and have it magnetically attach. I think this is going to also affect the cases, that how the cases can attach to the phone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was that, and even here in the breakdown, they mentioned that also Apple's sustainability plans, which also come into play with probably one of the biggest quote-unquote controversies. I mean, again, this is something that if you hadn't been paying attention to the rumors, this caught you off guard. But according to their sustainability ideas, they are not including the cable and the headphones in every iPhone. You have to buy them separately for like $40. What is included is an adapter for existing USB Type A connectors to USB Type C connectors, so that you can, charge your phone with existing cables and, letting you do it that way. But they kept the Lightning connector and they ditched the cable in the headphones, which I guess I should have gotten your reaction on that sooner, Sandy, but yeah, what'd you think?
Well, I think they get away with whatever they can get away with.
Someone mentioned it was like with everything that Apple does, it's like 50% altruistic, because it does save a lot of waste going into the bins, but then it's also 50% we can save some money here. It's great.
Exactly, and that's the main thing that they're looking at. Although I understand that everybody's trying to be to buy into the sustainability and all that. But this actually helps their bottom line. And the phones are not much cheaper than last year, if cheaper at all. The only one that's cheaper is the Mini, which is going to be $699. And that seems like a pretty decent price to me.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I actually tweeted out a picture of this, and I gotta find it here in what I tweeted out. It should be this one right here, this image. Which, if you're watching the video portion, you can see it here. These are the maximum prices for each of the iterations of the phone, and they have them color coded as like kind of the baseline iPhone, along with kind of like the plus sizes, and then starting with the X, you have the Pro line and the Max Pro line. And you can definitely see that there's a trend that they are starting to go down. Although, like, the SE, I guess, is in its own category, and the Mini does not replace the SE. But you can see here that the baseline phone did go up. The Pro line, and again, these are maximum storage capacity is like really the thing that affects the price. Is it 56 gig or 128 gig or whatever? The price went down, and it looks like it went down. If I recall, it's like $13.99 for the 12 Pro Max, and at its most expensive, it was like $14.99 or like $14.60 for the 10s Max. So it went down by like $100, but at the same time, they have reduced the amount of stuff that is offered within the box. So
right, and their rivals have already unveiled their new phones, and those prices are lower than they were last year.
Yeah.
So the
Apple
Samsung Galaxy, is a lower price. Google cut the price of its Pixel 5 by $100. So,
of course, if you're looking at this, at this chart here, you could also say like the Samsung Galaxy Fold, which would be way off the charts up here, because that's like $2,000. Of course, that's not a fair comparison because it's, kind of research and development style, but it's, I don't know. Prices are coming down a little bit. Clearly, they're not trying to say we're going to keep everything under $1,000. That's not their goal, but they're going down just slightly. So I think people, should kind of take notice of that. They're not, we have not reached the point of a $1,600 phone yet.
Thank God.
Yeah, no kidding. But so there's that. Yeah.
Go ahead. Well, there's one thing that I read, and I don't have it right in front of me, but Verizon is going to be offering people who want to trade their iPhones in that are like iPhone, I think it was 10 and 11 that could be traded in for 12 for the Mini for $288. So they're going to have some wheeling and dealing here. Yeah.
And of course
having that, others will too.
Yeah, and of course they refurbish them and sell them in, kind of third-party aftermarkets for twice what you sell it to them for. But yeah, if you're looking for top dollar trading it in, services and programs like that might be your best bet. And so there was that. And then, of course, the next one, let's get this chart off of here. The next one that they talked about, James Bond music was playing in the background, and they had that lady go up there with the briefcase and open up briefcase after briefcase after briefcase to unveil the iPhone 12 Mini, which looks a lot like any other iPhone, except it's a little bit thinner, and it's I think made of a little bit different material. But overall, the iPhone 12 Mini was a nice twist, I guess, for people who are pushing back against the idea. Like the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is the largest phone that they made, is actually, I thought it was noticeably larger than the iPhone 11 Pro Max. It was noticeably larger, and it had a larger screen. So their larger phones are getting larger, and now their smallest phones are getting smaller. So they want to make sure they hit all the different price points and size differentiations.
Right. And I think that's really good. I think, I'm just talking from my gut here, that a lot of people will go for the smaller phone, especially with the smaller price. So see what happens.
Yep. Price starts at $700. It doesn't really compare to the iPhone SE, which I think came in at like $399 or something like that. But yeah, even the lower price itself would be very, very good for maybe parents who are looking for one for their kids, but they don't want to be like, hey, here's $1,100. They would be like, oh, $600, even though that's still a lot, would be more reasonable for a kid. So let's see. So there's that one. Let's see. So the iPhone 12 Pro, which was the next one, and they had some great looking renders. They had the new color. They announced, I believe it was Pacific Blue was the new color. Silver,
Dark
gray,
blue.
gold, and Pacific Blue.
Yep.
They all look good. And of course they always talk about their manufacturing process. And I got to say, I love the fact that all of them have kind of that matte finish on the back, because I've seen that glossy finish on the back, and it scratches like before you even walk out of the of the store. It scratches.
Right. And I'm glad that they stuck with Corning. They have a new screen cover on this called Ceramic Shield, which is the next level up of Corning. They've been with Corning for a long time, but every phone it gets better and better. So this one is supposed to be more drop proof.
Yeah, something 4 times the drop resistance, which it doesn't mean that instead of dropping from 4 feet, you can drop it from 16 feet. I think what that means is like they were talking about like 4 times as reliable. So, if the other one had a failure rate of 4%, this one has a failure rate of 1%, something along those lines. So it's more likely to survive after a fall, from the same height. It also had some pretty good Ip68 rating, which means that it can be held underwater up to 20 feet for 30 minutes. Waterproof, very, very waterproof. So definitely good. Let's see. Anything else? The new camera array consists of a triple lens setup in the back, including a 47% larger wide sensor for better optical image stabilization across the board. So, this is the part where they also introduced, kind of some of the software and things like that. But yeah, the camera didn't seem to be a big upgrade hardware-wise, but software-wise, there may be some major improvements coming to this phone.
Right. And software-wise, they did not talk about the iOS system because that was in their previous
Worldwide
get-together, I believe. Right.
Yeah.
Have you tried the latest version of iOS?
I'm sure I have it. I'm sure that I updated. Didn't it get pushed back? I think it was supposed to be out, but they actually pushed it back. It
came out like maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
Oh, then I definitely have it, and I've probably been using it.
Okay,
iOS
if you 14, have it,
right?
It's really cool. I mean, I really like it because you can attach widgets now.
Yeah.
So the widgets are very nice if you like that sort of thing, which I do. But the main thing that I like is the problem with iPhones, Android phones, doesn't matter, is you're scrolling, after you get to use these things for a few years, you're scrolling through page after page after page of app to find the right app. Now, yes, you can have Siri search for it. You can have Google search for it. There's ways around that. But what they've done with this latest version of the operating system is they've allowed you to hide all those app pages. And so the second page, when you swipe to the left, that page will come up with their screen, which shows you your recently used and then categorizes things in categories like productivity, etc. But the biggest thing about that is at the top, there's a search bar, and you can just type 2 letters of the app and it pops up automatically.
Yeah.
So it's like helps you find the apps that you have. And I think that it's very, very good.
Yep, they have that. App clips as well, which you can kind of clip things to different pages. I mean, iOS 14 was a great upgrade to everyone's phone. Like even before you upgrade to an iPhone 12, the iOS 14 was a really, really good upgrade. I've been very happy with that. Let's see. So the iPhone 12 Pro was also the first phone camera to shoot in Dolby Vision HDR at 4K at 60 frames per second. So At the same time, though, I don't think many people are really trying to take 4K 60 FPS video, because that takes up a lot of space. And,
Right.
Not even a lot of
agree.
things can even display that. So.
Right.
So there you go. Better camera, and let's see, going up from there, they have this picture here showing all the different ones. iPhone SE, yep, I did recall correctly, $399, XR $499, 11 $599, 12 $699, 12 Pro $999, and then the 12 Pro Max was $1099. That's what I was thinking.
$1099. Yeah, we
So,
said $999.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's their full lineup, and it looks like they have everything from $400 all the way up to about $1,100, and you can go even higher than that. But this is probably the widest selection, I guess, of iPhones that they've ever had, which is definitely a good thing. They're diversifying.
Yeah, I think it's a very good thing. All the way from the little mini to the Pro Max,
Yeah. A lot of choice. Now, they also mentioned Lidar. This is probably, as much as we've been bad-mouthing kind of the hardware and, how it's not really an upgrade, the Lidar is definitely an upgrade when it comes to the hardware and the cameras. And Lidar is light emitting detection, something. Essentially, it lets you measure things using the sensor. It's measuring the time it takes for light to bounce off an object and come back to the sensor. So that means that your iPhone now knows when something is approximately 10 feet away, 3 inches away, whatever, and is able to kind of map things out in a three-dimensional space. This is the same technology used for cars, although to a much lesser degree. But yeah, it's a very, very impressive technology to squeeze into a phone. And they mentioned it could have good implications for things like augmented reality. So anything by the Lidar kind of strike your interest, Sandy?
I think that that's something that's going to, as they get apps that take advantage of it, then you're going to see what it can do. And I think it's going to be pretty spectacular, at least just given the small demonstration that they gave. I think that, it's going to be extremely useful, but it's going to take a little while for the apps to be written taking advantage of it.
Do you recall when Intel came out with their, I think it was their RealSense webcams, and through Logitech and Microsoft as well, they had it wasn't Lidar, but it was trying to do the same job that Lidar was trying to do, to be able to map someone's face and kind of measure things like that. That changed a little bit of what webcams can do, but I think having this built into iPhones is, I would not be surprised if Lidar in some way makes it into every other flagship phone from kind of the premium phone companies.
Right. So I think you're right. And it'll be very, very interesting to see what comes of it. What do the developers can do with it to make it more useful on your phone.
I'm sure that measuring things and being able to even take quick scans of objects for 3D printing or, for just measuring in general are definitely going to be there. So let's see. So they even had another recap here. This is the quick one, but I think that was about it. That's all I remember as well. But yeah, that was the iPhone event. Very, very Spartan because of the lack of people, but at the same time, yeah, not a lot of surprises. I mean, they had everything that everyone was speculating about, and it was what I expected, I guess.
I think it was, but I think it was not at all disappointing. Let me put it that way. Oh, no. And it couldn't have been disappointing because they've got a lot of work to do to keep selling these iPhones.
Yeah. Yeah, they have some good competition in Samsung, and as long as Samsung kind of keeps their phones from exploding, they should be it should be a good competition.
They did get over that. They got over that quite quickly, actually.
All things considered, they definitely did. So in these last couple of minutes, Sandy, we have like 5 minutes left. I thought we'd talk a bit about Prime Day. It's ongoing, for everyone out there listening to the archive of this or the podcast of this. I apologize. It might already be over, but Prime Day. And I got to ask you first and foremost, have you jumped on Prime Day?
Of course I did. I was on there first thing yesterday morning. Looking for the bargains, and there are bargains, especially in Amazon Echo devices, any Amazon devices.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a Ring doorbell. No, I ordered it through the Alexa, and because I ordered it through her, I got an extra discount off the Prime Day discount, and I wound up paying like $75 for a Ring 3, which is spectacular. So there are bargains. There are bargains out there. If you still have the time and you're listening to this live, go ahead to Amazon and see what kind of things you can find.
Yeah, it's wow, $2 to $150. It's weird, but yeah, the way that I've been explaining it to people is like, imagine if you owned the world's largest garage and you wanted to get rid of some stuff, and that's essentially what Amazon is doing. I mean, a lot of the stuff is going to be phone cases for last year's phones. A lot of the stuff is going to be toys that were, kind of last season's toys, but at the same time, there's still going to be headphones that are still really good that are going to be on sale, especially, like you said, products that Amazon themselves make are going to be deeply discounted. So there are deals. It's just there's also a lot of stuff that nobody else wanted anyways.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it's all old stuff, which kind of what you're saying, but it's not. Maybe it's 50-50. I don't know. But there's a lot of good stuff. One thing that I wanted to talk about just briefly is the new thing that they started a couple weeks ago, and it's prominent on their Prime Day website, and it's called Amazon Live. And what that is you click on it and you see a video of the product.
Really?
You see a video of the product and people explaining it, and it's so much like QVC or HSN on television that you have to do a double take because that's the way Amazon is moving. Have you seen that?
I have, and it didn't ring a bell until you said it was a lot like QVC. Yeah, they pay a couple of interns to go up there and just kind of handle the product and kind of talk about its features. Pretty handy. Obviously, I think that looking at this as well as I do, Sandy, that Amazon made its fame based on having very good and reliable reviews. Like everyone went to Amazon to look at the reviews, and then eventually the prices, kind of were just the best on Amazon. But yeah, that was interesting. That was a different move, and I think it's because people can't go into the store and look at it themselves. So it was a nice little COVID response to the whole thing.
Right. And the amazing thing is that QVC and HSN have been on the air on TV forever.
Mm-hmm.
And now TV is moving to the internet instead of vice versa.
Amazon, and Amazon used to be a bookseller, and and then they put all the bookstores out of business, and now Amazon's looking to open up stores in physical retail locations. Like every time they crush or displace entire industries, they always come back in and sweep up the pieces. Seems to be kind of what they like. And by the way, Echo Dot 3rd Gen 6 months Amazon Music only for $19. I mean, there have been people who I've talked to. I've since installed these things all over the house. And, I have gotten super used to having these digital assistants everywhere and just being able to play music, ask questions, intercom people. I mean, I have taken to it like a duck to water. All
Good
the
for you, Ben. I'm really thrilled. I'm happy because I've been talking about the Echo since it came out in 2014, and to see that you've finally taken to it is really great.
I think we have like 8 different devices everywhere from the garage to the kitchen to the bedrooms. We have them all, and I use them daily, easily daily. So if you are at all interested in these devices, I would say that when I bought them, unfortunately they were they had like bundle packs, but pretty much full price. Boy, if I had just waited 10 months.
They do have a lot of packs that you can get. Buy this and you get the free Echo. So there's a lot of that, especially on Prime Day today. But also you can you can, if you just want to try an Echo device and see what the voice assistant thing is all about, for $19, I mean, you can hardly go wrong. And they've got a return policy now that's good until, I think, December 31st for the holidays. So if you buy it and you don't like it, you can send it back.
For sure. So, and anyone who has an eagle ear can hear that there's music playing in the background, which I actually switched them up in my automation. This is the opening music, but it's actually the close. So everyone, Sandy, we're out of time today, and today's show flew on by. I want to thank you so much for helping me break down Apple. We didn't get a chance to talk about that yesterday, so everyone, I hope that you enjoyed that, and hopefully we informed you just a little bit. Sandy, CompuKiss, you said about 2 weeks, and of course, when it's finally up, I'm guessing it's going to have everything from your old articles, new articles, all that and more?
That's right. And we'll, let's promise it by next month when I'm online again with you.
I gotcha. Perfect. Yeah. And of course, we'll have you back on everyone's second Wednesday of the month, Sandy Berger. Of course, she is our consumer electronics expert. Sandy, until next time, have a great day. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.